This is Rasputin, and this is the Oracle text because the card is not very readable. The important part is that these first two abilities combine to basically say, when Rasputin enters, add 7 mana. That's pretty good with cards like Ephemerate, Momentary Blink, and Essence Flux. So good, in fact, that I decided to put 18 Flicker cards in the deck. You might think, sure, we can blink our commander and add lots of mana, but what makes this deck interesting? And that brings us to the reason I started building this deck in the first place, which are the various tutor and recursion chains you can set up starting from just one card. Imagine you have Step Through. You can Wizard Cycle it to get Archaeomancer, which gets back the Step Through. Then cycle for Spellseeker, which finds Ephemerate, which blinks the Spellseeker to get something else, and then Archaeomancer on the rebound, which then returns Ephemerate to go again. Chains like this are the bread and butter of this deck, and they extend to connect most of the deck like a giant web of tutors, recursion, and blinking, all fueling and fueled by our commander Rasputin. But won't all those tutors lead to repetitive games? In theory they could, but Commander is a game with 4 decks that are all interacting with each other. As long as your deck is built to react to what your opponents are doing, you'll always have a unique and interesting game. Speaking of interaction, the main way we interact with our opponents is by killing their stuff, so here's some removal. We have Disenchant and Heliod's Intervention to blow up artifacts and enchantments. We have Martial Coup and Winds of Abandon to board wipe creatures. And we have Meteor Golem, Duplicant, and Spine of Ishsaw for single target removal. Meteor Golem being especially good because he's a creature and therefore easy to blink, and he hits any non-land permanents. And when the green player is ramped so much that they rebuild every single turn and you can't keep them down because land destruction is taboo in bracket 3, we have Portcullis to slow them down until they find artifact removal. Portcullis also acts as a sort of panharmonicon, where we can play multiple creatures, get the ETB, put them under the Portcullis, and then get the ETB a second time when the Portcullis is inevitably destroyed. I want to talk about Parallax Wave for a bit. This card is genuinely one of the most powerful and versatile cards in the deck. It acts as removal, obviously, by exiling opponent's threats, but it can also act as protection. Like if someone casts a board wipe, we can exile all our own creatures with Parallax Wave, and then on our upkeep it sacrifices itself, because we spent all the fading counters, and all our stuff gets back unharmed. Even if someone doesn't board wipe, we can still do that same trick just to flicker our creatures. Parallax Wave also has a powerful interaction with Flicker of Fame, where because of the wording, you can permanently exile your opponent's creatures by making the return trigger happen while the exile effect is still on the stack. If you have an Archaeomancer trapped under the wave while you do this, you can even get back the Flicker of Fate to do it all again. While that combo isn't infinite, there is an infinite combo in this deck somewhere. Um, I think it includes like 4 cards or something. Comment if you find it. We've already talked at length about Parallax Wave, and Archaeomancer has been mentioned a few times, but I just want to reiterate how crucial this card can be, turning our flickers into recursion. Spellseeker can turn our flickers into spells from the deck, and it's the center of many of our tutor chains. I also want to give a shout out to Brago, probably one of the best flicker cards in the game, allowing you to blink any number of non-land permanents you control every single turn. Even if all of your opponents somehow have flying blockers, it can flicker itself to remove it from combat and keep it safe. Solitude is the most mana efficient removal spell in the deck, and it's often worth tutoring for if you can. You can even flicker it before the evoke trigger makes you sacrifice it, which not only lets you exile a second creature, but it also saves the Solitude and lets you keep it permanently to flicker again in the future. Revelark is currently the only card in the deck that returns creatures. That might seem like a big weak spot, but we have a lot of redundancy in our deck, so we can usually recover quite well. Revelark is just here to recur Archaeomancer and Brago if those get hit in a board wipe, mostly. You can simply park the Revelark in play, and then when the board wipe happens, you immediately get back the 2 creatures that just died in it. This list does not include Soul Ring and Eldrazi Displacer. Soul Ring is a design mistake from the early days of Magic, when WotC didn't yet know how to balance their mana system. It's on par with Mana Crypt, Black Lotus, and the Moxen, all of which have been banned from Commander for being too powerful. If you're partial to the argument that everyone runs Soul Ring, so it's okay for everyone to run Soul Ring, try not to trip over your circular logic too hard. But go ahead and include the card. I hope your wins with it don't feel earned. Eldrazi Displacer, unlike Soul Ring, is an incredibly cool Magic card. It does the interesting resource conversion thing I like so much about this deck, letting you turn mana into flickers. The problem is that it immediately goes infinite with the commander, trivializing anything we might want to do from there. Since our deck is so full of tutors, it would be too easy to get Displacer out quite quickly, robbing ourselves of any fun we could have had playing an interesting game. If you do want to include Displacer in your deck, I recommend adding a note to it that says it can't target Rasputin or something, and telling your playgroup about it beforehand so it doesn't feel like you're holding back on them during the game. Finally, just some YouTube stuff. Check out the list in the description. Like, subscribe, comment any card recommendations or cuts, and please share this video with your friends. I would like for this channel to grow. Have an easier day.